This horse began to step on the coffin, and when the lid broke, everyone around was shocked to hear something crying. Animals are so incredible that we humans do not give them enough credit for how awesome they are. One of their most severely underrated attributes is their ability to form such powerful bonds with humans that they become deeply connected. It is said that some animals are so in tune with their surroundings, nature, and humans that they can feel the aura of living things around them, and even tell when a person has already passed on before anyone else knows. This is the story of a horse on a small town farm in Morocco. A 65-year-old farm owner named Salim lived on his large farm with his loving family. Ever since he was a kid, Salim had grown up around animals. His father and mother were avid animal lovers who reared cattle, raised horses, and had numerous domestic pets in their home. Salim grew up knowing how to earn and respect an animal's trust. For some reason, animals seemed to gravitate towards Salim. Of all the animals Salim grew up watching his parents care for, horses were undoubtedly his favorite. Salim would wake up before anyone else in his home and rush to the stables, where he would dutifully brush their coats and their luscious manes and feed them. The horses loved Salim dearly and would neigh in excitement whenever he came to the stable. It wasn't surprising that he inherited the farm and its traditions when Salim's parents became old and passed on. Salim didn't only rear the healthy and easily marketable animals, though. He especially went out looking for the so-called broken ones that no one seemed to want. He had saved so many farm animals, lined up to be put to sleep for one reason or another. Salim had many horses on his farm, enough that it looked like an incredible sea of glossy coats when they were all outside. The farmer had always been fascinated by these majestic creatures. He saw hidden beauty in everything they did. When Salim was 48, he crossed paths with a special horse. He was out selling horse feed when he overheard his client talking about putting down a young horse. Immediately after hearing those words, Salim ran to the horse feed buyer, asking him to elaborate on the situation with the mother and foal. The buyer said that the horse that gave birth to the young foal was very sick and had likely passed on whatever illness it had to her offspring. According to the buyer, the newborn horse was so sickly, and the birth was so traumatic, that its mother died within an hour. There was nothing to do for the foal. It was skinny, could barely see, and would likely die in a few days. The buyer went on to say that it was burning a hole in his pocket, having to cater to the young thing, and they still couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Salim's heart immediately broke for the poor thing, and he asked to see it. When he visited the farm, his heart melted when he laid eyes on the foal. There it was, as skinny as they had said, with the saddest look in its eyes. Salim was so upset with the owners for clearly not caring for this animal. Because of the conditions surrounding its birth, they hadn't even given it a chance to live, yet they were already considering putting it down. Salim asked if they would sell the young horse to him. Much to his surprise, the other farm owner looked at Salim like he had suddenly grown a second head. They asked why he would do that. "Don't you see how pathetic and weak it looks?" The owner asked. "There's nothing you can do with this, and it likely won't last a month alive," he warned. Salim was adamant. He didn't care what the other man had to say. This poor foal was coming home with him. Eventually, the owner agreed. He didn't put up much of a fight anyway, but warned that Salim had better not return asking for his money back when the young horse eventually died. Salim agreed, and they quickly brought out the young horse from the farm, which lay with a sad look on its face. They loaded up the horse on Salim's truck, and soon they were on their way to Salim's farm, just on the outskirts of the town. The first thing Salim did was call a vet to look at the foal. Although he knew about taking care of horses, it was clear that the poor thing would need medical help. The veterinarian asked that Salim bring the foal to his vet centre, several miles away from his farm outside the town. Salim was determined to help the foal survive. It didn't matter that the vet was far away. He drove his truck to the veterinarian, where they would find some answers to his questions. After looking at the horse and running a few tests, the vet sighed deeply. The poor horse would likely not make it to adulthood. In fact, it would be surprising if it made it past a few months, and by a miracle, maybe even a year or two, with careful attention and patience. Salim said he was prepared to pay as much attention to the foal as he could, no matter how short its life might be. The passionate farm owner worked hard to make the foal comfortable and happy. Salim named the horse Kala. Although the vet said it would take a miracle for Kala to live a year or two, the first year passed, then the second, followed by the third, the fourth, and the fifth. After just 5 years, Kala had shocked everyone who knew his story. That feeble, sickly little foal had grown into a stunning, majestic steed. He was strong, fast, energetic, and super playful. Kala was so attached to Salim that the farm owner's helpers and his family joked the horse probably thought Salim was his real dad. The horse followed Salim everywhere, staring at him with love in his eyes. Salim liked to joke that he cared for Kala so much that the horse had no choice but to stay alive and healthy. Unfortunately, a few years later, Salim became very sick. He grew so ill that he could no longer tend to the animals on the farm as he had before. His wife and kids took over the work, while Salim supervised and did what little he could. Of course, Kala was not like the rest of the animals on the farm. He had intelligent eyes and a beautiful soul that anyone could see. In the evenings, when Salim sat on the front porch of his home, Kala would trot gently to the house. There, he would lay down beside Salim and spend time with him. This became their routine in the mornings and evenings. Sadly, one day, Salim had a heart attack while in his garden. Although his family acted quickly, there was nothing they could do in time to save him in their small town. As Salim lay unresponsive in his bed, the family realized he had passed away. Following their traditions, they began the burial rites. They carefully washed Salim, wrapped him in burial cloth, and placed him in a wooden coffin to be taken to the burial site on his farm. Everyone was shocked when they heard a commotion from afar as they made their way to the burial site. The farmhands were chasing none other than Kala. They had tried to lock him in his stable, but the powerful horse had kicked down the doors. The steed was fast and relentless as he charged toward the crowd. Salim was a well-loved man, and many people were present at the burial, crying. At the sight of the large, powerful horse charging toward them, the crowd scattered, moving away from the coffin by the grave. When Kala reached the coffin, he began aggressively stepping on it. Although they knew the horse wasn't being sinister and was likely saddened by Salim's passing, they also knew it would be hard to stop him. Just as someone attempted to use a catch rope around Kala, the horse kicked off the coffin's lid. He stopped stepping on it and began sniffing instead. Everyone was stunned. After a few seconds of silence, they heard crying from inside the coffin. From within, Salim exclaimed and sat up from where he lay. Everyone instantly screamed in fear and ran away. Salim's family and a few friends who stayed behind stared in shock as Salim explained that he had almost been buried alive. Although they were terrified, Salim's family and friends were moved to tears. They believed it was a miracle, and that Kala somehow knew his owner was not truly dead. An expert doctor who later heard about the case explained that, while incredible, Salim's story was likely not a miracle. Salim had probably experienced a medical condition called catalepsy, a state that mimics death, causing loss of sensitivity, vital signs, consciousness, and rigidity of the body. Although rare, Cases like this have been documented before. Thanks to the incredible bond between Kala and Salim, the horse detected that his owner was still alive and prevented him from being buried. Who would have thought the weak, sickly foal from years ago would grow up to save his owner from such a tragic ending?